the Sonoma City Council. Since this was changed on the agenda, I'm going to remind people to put your cell phones and watches on stun while the meeting's going on. Thank you. And now if you'll all please rise as you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we can have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Wellender,
Here.
Councilmember Farrar Rivas,
Present.
Vice Mayor Gurney,
Yes.
Councilmember Ding,
Present.
Mayor Lowe.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are conducting this meeting in person, but there is public participation using Zoom, and some people watch it on the TV station and then send us messages afterwards, and that's okay too. We did not have a closed session. I'd like to move approval of the agenda with one, if you wouldn't mind making this change, to move 6.2, Women's Veterans Day, to the next agenda so that the people who are interested in being part of it could be here. I got a message that they couldn't come until the next week. So with that, are there any other adjustments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve with the exception of 6.2.
So moved.
I second.
Moved and seconded. And if we can call the roll, please.
Councilmember Wellender,
Yes.
Councilmember Farrar Rivas,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gurney,
Yes.
Councilmember Ding,
Aye.
Mayor Lowe.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you so much. We are now at the portion of our agenda while we would like to entertain comments from the public. These are on anything you'd like, as long as it's not on the agenda. Things that are on the agenda, we'll take those public comment at that time of the agenda item. So any comments from the public, please just step up to the podium, take a deep breath, and let us know what you're thinking. Or not. Okay, anyone on Zoom?
No one is raising their hand.
No one's raising their hand on Zoom, okay. Are there any public comment is closed. Are any meeting dedications? No meeting dedications. Moving on, we'll do the council members' reports and comments. And let's start with Councilmember Ding.
Thank you, Mayor Lowe. Last 2 weeks, I didn't enter any in the city representative the meeting within the county. Instead, I went to Washington, D.C. as a California tax professional, had a meeting in the Capitol Hill with the Ways and Means Committee and talking about the tax reform and IRS and funding, which are the very hot topic. I expressed what we are thinking from the local here in California. And they are listening, and also I'm not sure how much impact I will generate, but definitely they are listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Farrar Rivas.
Yes, I attended the Sonoma Clean Power Authority meeting on June 1st. And Sonoma Clean Power won a first place in community decarbonization for the energy center that they have, their advanced energy center. And also for them, particularly for them and how they work with heat pumps at lower costs and to provide help owners and renters reduce the use of gas. So that was very good. The other two things is they have brought on 2 new projects. One is called the Azalea Project. One is called the Rome Poem Project. Every year, members that are, if you're part of Sonoma Clean Power or community clean power associations, you have to, in front of the California Public Utilities Commission, you have to every year be able to designate where you're going to be getting your power from. And if you don't have enough power in line, you can actually lose your capability to be able to provide power. These two projects, as well as providing more kilowatts, also offer storage and put Sonoma Clean Power there over the top of what they have to have listed as procurement projects. So that puts all of Sonoma County in very good stead in regards to getting clean energy.
Thank you very much. Anything else?
No, that's
Thank you. Vice Mayor Gurney.
Well, it was actually kind of a quiet period, but I will say that I did go to the ribbon cutting of the new Adobe drugstore, and it looks very nice, and I encourage everybody to support that business. And I also attended the ribbon cutting of the Hannah Center Mental Health Hub, another very interesting project that will benefit everybody in the valley, and I encourage you to explore that. I think they have lots of services that everybody can take advantage of, and that concludes.
Thank you so much. Mr. Willender.
I too was rather quiet with one exception. I did have the chance to participate in a new committee that is regarding something that's very dear to my heart, and that's trees. There's a new street tree committee that is, I think, responding in part to that article that came out in the paper about the rather limited amount of shade that we have in this community for the majority of our town, and the value that it might be to add to our, quote, urban forest. And I'm pleased to be part of it, and it's just beginning. So there you have it.
That's great, because you know how I am about trees, and I know that you're the right person to be in that place. Thank you. So I had kind of a busy week. Of course, I want to start by talking about our first Pride Festival that we had last week on June 1st, and it was just very well attended. I want to give a special shout out to all the staff who helped put it all together. It all started with a request from Gary Saperstein to make sure we had the pride flag up, and I said, that's just not enough, Gary. We're going to have to do more than just that. First of all, we need all the flags, and I want to have the chamber on our rotating art to feature LGBTQ artists, which we have, and I hope you're all enjoying this incredible visual that we have today and I know we have Julie is here, Julie Tressman is here. Any of the other artists here? Julie, why don't you give us a wave if you're here? Hey, thank you. Beautiful. Her multimedia presentations are there. Alicia Bulow, Tricia Rissman, and Catherine Albright. And Catherine Albright, if you have a chance, either afterwards or break, you have to download an app, and there's an augmented reality feature with her paintings, and they just come alive. And it's just incredible how we're changing things in this room every other month and thanks to the Cultural and Fine Arts Commission. I see Connie is here. Who really are putting this together. It's just great. Rebecca Barr, city clerk, has got a new hobby. She's now our director as well, and working on putting these together. But I just wanted to mention that we had a reception at the Sunflower, and many people attended that. We're going to address our police chief is going to come up at some point, but to talk about something else. But I also want to be able to, and now I have to pull it up, let you know that I received a letter from the school district, just an amazing letter commending you for all the work that you're doing to help keep our students safe and our community safe. And and unfortunately, I didn't pull it up on my phone. I all planned to read it, but it's really amazing, and we'll put it in the public record so people can see it. But and thank you also, Chief Cutting, for speaking at the Pride celebration. That was so well received, and everyone who spoke, it was great. We had a wonderful time. I was also at Hannah and at the Adobe Drug opening. I also threw out the first pitch at the Stompers game, along with world-class pitcher Dave Stewart. They didn't tell me that, right? So, so there were two. So I spent the morning practicing with my friend Charlie Tolbert, who coaches the freshman team at the high school, an old friend on our pro committee. And he's giving me all these instructions. I go home, practice throwing a ball against a tree, da-da-da. Then I meet Dave Stewart. So I asked Dave Stewart, I said, this is how I've been taught by my friend Charlie. And he said, oh, no, don't do that. And here I am ready to do it, right? And he said, how do you do it? And he said, just imagine, he said, like you're throwing a rock. I'm like, okay, I guess I've been a rock thrower at some point in my life, theoretically, metaphorically. And so I threw it like a rock. And anyway, it went right over the plate. Mr. Wellender took a picture of it, so it's absolutely memorialized. But it did make it there, so that was quite fun. And then this afternoon I was at LAFCO, which is the county committee that oversees any reorganizations and boundaries within the county. Every county has one, even San Francisco, which is crazy because everything in San Francisco is the same, the school district and everything, but apparently every county has a LAFCO. But it's very interesting as we've been looking at fire districts, and it was the Monte Rio Fire District is now going to be part of the Gold Run Fire District, as are several others, and we heard a lot of reports on that, and I'm convinced that, as are all the fire chiefs in the area, that we're going to have better fire service in those more rural areas, which is great. So if you didn't get a Pride sticker and you want one, by the way, we'll make sure that you get one. We'll put them on the end of the table. We'll put them down there if you want to grab one. Happy to share those with you. So that was my somewhat busy week. All right.
Who won the game?
Well, we were kind of losing last time I looked. So, but the Giants are doing great, and I think they're playing right now, and they're in third place. And the Dodgers lost yesterday, and all's right with the world. So. Don't get me started on sports. I spend half my day looking at sports all day long, so I'm a big sports fan. But please go out to the Stompers game. It's so much fun. It really is. And I can't wait till we beat Healdsburg. So, all right. We're moving along to city manager comments and announcements.
Great, thank you. And I'll keep this short. We've been working on preparing for the budget. There was an article today in today's paper about where we are with the budget. That will be coming to the City Council next meeting on the 21st. And then we will follow up with that in terms of directions on how we move forward with our budget going into 2024. Another exciting piece of news is that I have made a selection for the Community Development Director, and the individual has accepted. I am working on the final documentation and paperwork, and I will make that public shortly, either by the end of the week or early next week. The rest of it, I've been meeting with a lot of businesses and community members and nonprofit groups over the past couple of weeks. I just want to thank everybody for spending time with me and getting me up to speed. I'm on week 5, so I have a month down and learning quite a bit. So thank you again for everyone taking their time with me. Couple updates that are coming up. So we have Friday is Sonoma Valley High School graduation. Just a reminder. I'm sure most people know about that. And as a reminder, if you're out driving around the county this weekend, it is NASCAR weekend. So just be aware of that coming up this weekend. So that's all I have. Thank you.
And Thursday is Adele Harrison graduation.
Oh, okay. Great. Lots of exciting things happening. Okay, city attorney comments.
Just want to report that I did attend the Cal City City Attorney Conference since we last saw each other, and that was a really good conference. Got a lot of information that I'll be imparting to the city manager coming days. So that's all.
Thank you. Thank you for attending that. Okay, we're moving on. The first thing is very excited because it's the introduction and recognition of the 2023 Creative Student Artist, Grace Atkinson. And Rebecca, do you have something to add to this, please?
Just, we were very amazed by her artwork, and I'm actually going to turn it over to the CFAC Chair, Steve Hagstrom.
Wonderful. Steve, there you are. I was looking for you and you were sitting right in front of me.
There I am.
Okay, great.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you.
Well, turn my back to you, but I have to face the microphone. So we're here to award the 2023 Student Creative Arts Award, and we also have an award of merit. So what we do as the city commission is we outreach to our artists in junior and senior year in high school. We're looking for applicants. We interview these applicants. We select a winner, and it is a prize. And then the winner will receive a $2,000 award. The applicants come from the Sonoma Unified School District footprint area. They don't have to go to a Sonoma high school. They can come from other high schools. But in this case, both the award winners today came from Sonoma Valley High School, Sonoma High. So what we look for is the artistic ability and an expression and just a desire to pursue art. But that's not it's not a prerequisite, but it's something that helps us decide and select the applicant and award this prize. So today I'm here to recognize this year's winner, Grace Atkinson. She is now and will forever be the 2023 Student Creative Arts Award recipient. So Grace, would you come up? So Grace, we have a plaque that is frameable. It's an award, and there is a little envelope for you for your work.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I'd like you to stay up here with me. We're not quite done because we do have an award of merit. Sydney Chapin, she is also very expressive with her work, lots of hidden messages, and I'd like to bring up Sydney, please, for this award of merit. Sydney's gift is $1,000.
So where do we see the artwork?
Well, the artwork will be displayed at the Sonoma Valley Sonoma Valley Hospital, and more will be revealed as to when that will happen. What we'd also like to do is bring up the Cultural Fine Arts Commissioners that are here and have a little picture. So for those people that are here in our group,
And her teachers is here. Her Sonoma Valley High School teacher, Renata Kuprion.
Connie, if you guys want to come this way. Sure. If you guys want to come all this way, we'll. You guys all. That's what I'm kind of. Okay, so everybody say cheers. Got it. Show the money. Thank you.
Okay, one more real quick. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Oops.
Just one more. Thank you so much. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Another big congratulations.
Stay put. Also,
Fantastic. Yes.
Grace has won the Best of Show in Sonoma County student show, including college students. She won that, and so Creative Bridges is giving a $250 award for her soon. So
That's wonderful, incredible. We have such great talent in Sonoma. This is just great. And so happy in the Year of the Arts to be saluting the youth artists. Thank you so much. Any other comments about this item? Any comments from the council? No. Thank you again. We're looking forward to more and more. And I'm so glad the hospital is now following our lead and putting art in the hospital, because we have a lot of public spaces and we have a lot of artists, and you know, we should be putting all of our art everywhere, and it's wonderful. It makes people feel good. I mean, I walked in here today and it was just like, wow, look at this. It's so great. Thank you. So at this point, I always tell people, if you came here for that item and that item alone, you are not hurting our feelings if you wish to leave. Yeah, no. Well, this is, you know, but you bring people sometimes, they get a little sense of it, and then they think, well, you know, now that I'm here, I think I have something to say about groundwater or something. You never know. So, the next presentation will be from our Chief of Police, Brandon Cutting.
Good evening. Thank you all. Sorry, I also don't want to turn my back to people, but I don't know if I can kind of turn to the side here. Try and do it like this.
You can turn your back to us.
This one? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I have everybody here, and I appreciate it. I really wanted to make this presentation about it's what we call an automated license plate reading system, and I've been involved in this system for about 10 years throughout Sonoma County, and I really think it is a fantastic tool for law enforcement and for the community here in Sonoma, and I want to talk about why. And I'm open to a lot of questions. I have made myself available, and I will continue to do so with anything that comes up. I know some of the reading on here, some of the text on the side is a little difficult, and I'm going to try and get through this presentation kind of quick, so if you have questions, you can address them specifically. Automated license plate reading system is, and I'll refer to it as ALPR from the rest of this. There's a lot of companies that provide it. The company that I'm specifically looking at is a company called Flock. I do have a representative if there's any technical questions that is going to be joining via Zoom if necessary. Flock is a company that I specifically am looking at because of the way that their cameras work. Their cameras are more like if I were to add a police deputy to every entrance and exit to the city, and then respond to them, and if we had a crime that took place, I could call on their 20/20 vision after the scene took place, after the crime took place. It's an amazing tool to have that. Not every system is quite that intricate. Most of them go off of infrared. This one goes off motion. It captures a thumbprint or a fingerprint of a license plate in the back or the front of the vehicle only. It does not capture persons. It does not capture any personal data. It is only an image of a license plate in the vehicle. We can use that database, law enforcement can, as long as we have lawful access to it. So I can't go in there and just look to see how many blue cars went by a camera. I have to have a lawful criminal reason to enter that database. There's a lot of ways that we mitigate how that is released. We have a policy, so the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office, many of you know, Sonoma Police Department is under contract under the Sheriff's Office, and so all of our policies are retained by the Sheriff's Office, And Sonoma County Sheriff's Office Policy 430, I can make it available to everybody. I know it was a part of the agenda, does specifically address access, auditing, and legal retention of the data that's contained in there. CLETS is a law enforcement database that we have access to. We had to go through a Department of Justice background check to have access to it. The only people that get access to this database are those who have been through a CLETS background, a Department of Justice background. We can't be everywhere. It's pretty obvious. You have 2 patrol deputies, a sergeant and a chief on duty on any given shift. That is not a lot given the number of entrances, 6 in and out of this city mainly. So having the ability to have a data collection only for crime statistics is fantastic. The trust of this database is incredible. It doesn't, 3 weeks ago we had a home invasion out in the valley. The Sonoma County Sheriff's Office had it. Sonoma Police responded to it. We suspected and believed pretty quickly that the suspects fled into the city of Sonoma. We didn't have this system, so we could not do a search to see if they were still in the city. So we had deputies and police officers running about the city looking for a similar vehicle. It's just so much better to be able to specifically state if a car is in the city, and then we can hone our skills and use helicopters and whatnot to try to locate the crime. Had we had it at that time, we wouldn't have been stopping similar vehicles. We would have only been stopping the vehicle. Technology multiplies the force. Obviously, I've already said that it adds, we only have a few deputies on patrol. It adds access to every entrance and exit to the city. And Sonoma is not a place where crime resides. Sonoma is a place where crime is a visitor. So most of the dollar amount crime, car theft, car part theft, burglaries, home invasions, violent crimes take place from somebody visiting the city. And I don't mean tourism, I mean people that are coming here to commit crimes. I can't stop that without a tool similar to this. This is what one of the cameras looks like. They're very small. They capture, as you see in this image here, the back of a car or the front of a car at the license plate. If the car doesn't have a license plate, I still capture the back or the front of the car, and there is an intelligent system within this that I can search for red Hyundai Sonata or other types of vehicles. This does not connect with any public personal information, so if you have a car and you're driving down the street, it doesn't automatically tell us your driving record, your personal data. I would have to have another law enforcement criminal database reason to access those pieces of information through CLETS. This only gathers evidence about the car. If we have Sonoma County has a stolen car hot sheet that we put in, and we can update it so that if a car is stolen from the city or a stolen car from Santa Rosa enters the city and exits the city, we'd be notified immediately. As well, if we had a home invasion or a stabbing or a shooting or even a catalytic converter theft, and we have a description of the vehicle, we can enter that, and when it arrives in our city, we would know. Last summer, we had 17 catalytic converters stolen. We knew the vehicle the suspects were in. We just couldn't catch it. Healdsburg's ALPR system, the exact same system, captured it. They captured the suspects all in their vehicle coming into the city. It's proactive and investigative. Proactive in if we have a database that we can upload, stolen car database, a criminal action that's taken place, and then we know the suspect vehicle, then we can enter it and it will give us an alert. And this has become a fairly known tool for many cities, and we'll talk about some of the ones in the area, but they are a great deterrent. Criminals know that they exist. When they see them, they don't want the car to be captured on them. My system and the design that I have in mind for our city won't allow them access other than past one of the cameras. The data that is captured by these cameras is owned by the city of Sonoma. The police department has the lawful access to it, and that is it. It is not shared or sold to anybody. It is not accessed or owned by anyone other than the city of Sonoma. It is only retained for 30 days. At the 31st day, it is automatically deleted. It is a software program that is applied, and it cannot be retained. So if on day 31 we go looking for a vehicle, it is gone. We do that so that if you're not involved in crime, your data doesn't get retained, and there aren't any issues down the road where you say you were collecting data on me and tracking me. We do not want that. We do not want that impression, and so we're keeping it to 30 days. Takes the human bias out of crime solving. We can't see the drivers in these cars. There is no personal bias that I could apply to this. It is specific to crime. And then there's some stuff on the side over here about the data and how it is stored. It's an encrypted, very secure data software. And we have an audit trail. So if I go into the system, I have access to the system for other agencies. If I go in there and I type in something, I have to put a criminal reason why I'm accessing it. Every time I access it with my unique username and password, it is tracked and somebody can see exactly what I did. If I didn't use a lawful reason, then I'm expelled from the system. It's not a speed or traffic enforcement tool. I said this is in the area. Healdsburg has the same type of system that we're looking at. St. Helena has the same. Napa County Sheriff's Office has multiple locations throughout the county that they have applied it. City of Novato, Foothill, which is a homeowners association, the City of Napa, Novato, Calistoga, Clear Lake, all of Lake County, and then some others. Windsor's putting them in now, and Santa Rosa has a mobile system, also with Flock. Outside of here, Solano County is probably one of the largest counties. Solano County, every municipality within the county has it, as well the county. Then these are some of the other ones. Just an example, in Benicia, there was a trailer that was stolen. They entered it into their ALPR system. It was taken at 3. At 3:30, they had the trailer. They had captured the driver and in custody. So they were able to quickly recover the trailer before it left their city. In Vacaville, they applied this. They had a 33% decrease in vehicle theft and a 35% increase in arrests related to vehicle theft. It's one thing to recover a stolen car. It's another to arrest the thief of the stolen car so that they don't continue. Usually when you recover a car of a thief, they're going to steal another car to continue to get around. This was a jewelry store theft that took place in San Bruno, and I use this because it's a good example of how we can apply the warnings. So they knew who did it. They went in and they were thwarted by the store owner, and they entered the vehicle information into Flock thinking that they might come back, and they did. When they entered the city, the police got notified, and the police were able to apprehend them before they were able to do it again. And then an Amber Alert, and this is out of Georgia. They were able to place an Amber Alert, the vehicle into the system, and within 6 hours, they had the person in custody, and the child was reunited with the parents. In Sonoma, this is more important to you, is this earlier in the year, we had a $24,000 jewelry theft from a Plaza jewelry store. We had great video of the suspect, or both suspects. We had great video from the camera on top of the building of them going into a vehicle. We know exactly the description of the vehicle. It doesn't capture the plate, and they left. We will not be able to identify them, most likely, because we don't know the license plate. Had we had this, I could have put in tan Toyota Sienna minivan within a time period and captured the license plate of them leaving. We also had an $80,000 car theft from a car dealership out on Napa Road, and that vehicle was taken out of the city almost immediately. It was in the middle of the night. We would have been able to identify not only the vehicle leaving, but the vehicle that it left with, which would lead us to the suspects. We also had a $50,000 car theft from the east side from a residence, And that's even more significant because at the same time, there was catalytic converter thefts from the same suspect vehicle that was seen by the resident. We also didn't have a plate. Had we had this system at the time, we could have scanned and had not only our stolen car recovered, but also the catalytic converter vehicle. And then most recently, we had a ATM machine that was a skimming device was applied to it at the Bank of America here on the plaza. We know the time that it occurred. We have a great picture of the suspect, and we have a generic video picture of the vehicle that applied that. We don't know the license plate. Had we had this system, we could have done a scan for the tan Prius that left after that time. And then as well, we had a break-in on Broadway at the Jack's gas station. Suspect was inside for about an hour, left, got into a vehicle that we have a very good description on, did use a stolen credit card, bought gas, and then left. And we didn't get a license plate. Again, this would have been incredibly helpful. And that is the presentation. I know everybody was given our policy, and I would like to entertain any questions that anybody has about it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this very thorough presentation, very helpful. So what we'll do is we'll turn it back to the council for questions, and then we'll take comments from the public, and then come back to council for any follow-up. So any questions for Chief Cutting? Yes, Mr. Wellender, please.
Yes, just one question to clarify between the 430 policy and your explanation. Your first sheet talks about retention of information 30 days. And then what I read here in the 430 policy, data downloaded to server shall be stored for a minimum of 1 year. Could you just clarify?
Yes, the download is not a process that we do on everything. It would be related to a case. So if the Toyota Sienna minivan was identified in an image in the system, it gets downloaded, it gets put onto our evidence.com, which is a company that we keep all of our digital evidence on, and it's retained on there for 1 year.
Thank you.
Okay, further questions? Any questions? Any questions? Ms. Farrar-Rivas?
Yeah, who has discretion over the 430 policy? Who is able to change that policy?
The sheriff's office. It goes through, there's a policy committee, so it goes through the attorney, the county council attorneys. Once they've reviewed all the legal changes to it, then it goes to a committee and it's reviewed and evaluated, and then it's approved or denied, and then it's sent out for training and validation.
And then I have another question, because it all looks very as far as encryption and safety and 30 days and all of that, but what have you heard, if any, in doing due diligence of any challenges or concerns with Flock?
I have not heard any with Flock. There are some other companies that have been out there that I have heard about their issues, but they retain the data. They weren't owned by the agencies. This data system is owned by Sonoma. That's a different system than many of the other ones.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Any further questions? Okay, seeing none, are there any comments or questions from the public? You'll need to come up to the microphone and ask your question.
I just have-
And the questions go to the council, unfortunately. We'll refer them back for
Okay,
clarification.
I'm just curious
Sure.
as to where the cameras will be posted.
Okay, great question. Thank you. Could you answer that for us, please?
Yes. So my intent is to put up, for lack of a better term, a fence around the city. So there are 6 primary entrances and exits to the city, and to be able to, at the outside of the city limits, not within the city, but at the outside of the city limits, but at the city limits, capture that data. So they would not be on the plaza. They're not going to be in any historic areas. They're very small cameras, but they would be placed in a conspicuous yet mild space.
And yes, any other questions or comments from the public? Any questions on Zoom? Yes.
Yes, we'll be bringing in Fred Alabak.
Okay, Mr. Alabak.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and Chief Cutting. I have a couple comments here. As a very involved citizen, I didn't hear about this until the budget meeting. the other day. And so I think it's pretty typical that something of a serious community nature doesn't get heard about by the community, and then that can be, the outreach period and comment period can be extended. So I'd like to ask that the outreach period here be extended. I'm not sure if you're planning on deciding this now or if this is just a presentation. I guess that's the question. Is this just a presentation or is this a decision item? So I would suggest that the city council do a survey like you did with the palm tree. This is a much more serious issue than the palm tree, and to engage the community to see what they thought about it, and to, you know, engage some con questions about this, and do a thorough vetting of it so the public can be sure that privacy concerns won't be infringed on. So I would suggest using the Electronic Frontier Foundation to vet this FLOC system, and also the Northern California Regional Intelligence Center, which the Sheriff's Office uses with the ALPR technology as well. So I don't see that there's any real rush to do this because we haven't had this forever, and that there are legitimate serious privacy concerns at stake here. So I think that it would be worthwhile for the city council to make sure that there was a really solid privacy wall in place, and that the citizens of the city, residents of the city could be sure of that. Because I looked at the FLOC ethics page on you know, how they're dealing with the ethics, and they have a self-certified ethics position. So that kind of reminded me of the Big Bad Wolf and Little Red Riding Hood, that, you know, you want to have a third-party certification or a third-party ethics and not be self-certified. So those are some of my comments. I sent some detailed comments to the city council and the city's public comment page. So I think that it would be valuable if you did not decide this tonight and assured the public that the privacy concerns were indeed addressed, and that you didn't just jump into this. Thanks very much.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Alabak. Any further comments on Zoom?
Yes, we'll be bringing in Tom Conlon.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the City Council, and thank you, Chief Cutting, for that presentation. I was not planning to speak on this item, but Mr. Alabak raises some interesting concerns I hope you'll discuss. I was curious if Chief Cutting could explain how this technology might be used beyond sort of the property crimes enforcement area, which I believe were all of his examples were essentially property crimes related. I'm specifically thinking of the problem we have in tracking accurate collision information after highway crashes. And there's oftentimes a accuracy problem in reporting the severity and sometimes the location, sometimes the parties involved of some of these crashes, particularly when they involve pedestrians and bicycle users. So I was just hoping that there might be some applications of this technology to improve that data collection concern that we have throughout the county and perhaps including in the city. Thank you for consideration.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Conlon. We'll, after public comment, we'll go back and I will get some clarification on those points. Thank you. Any further?
No one further.
Thank you. So, so Chief Cutting, could you answer if there are traffic issues that could be germane to this technology useful? Or?
Yeah. So the answer is yes and no. Mostly no, to be honest. It has to have a criminal relevance to have access to it. So if there's not a crime, a hit and run, that data would be fantastic if we had a vehicle description and we didn't have enough to potentially identify the suspect from the scene itself. But in regular collision information, as I stated, it is not a traffic-related tool. Without the criminal nexus to access that database, law enforcement doesn't have that legal authority. It's written in our policy that it has to have criminal nexus to access.
And can you clarify what the next steps would be after this presentation as far as implementing?
Yes, I do have this in my budget forecast for this next fiscal year. If the budget is approved, I would plan to go ahead with that item and begin the process. It is, I believe, a 1 to 2 month period of time for the install before it would go live. The Flock company signs a 2, 3, and 5 year contract. I believe we would be looking at the shorter term in the beginning to determine the abilities and usefulness for the community long term before anything went forward.
And in addition to all the cities that you mentioned, license plate readers are fairly standard on bridges and so forth. I mean, are there other, I mean, they're not used necessarily for that purpose, but I mean, as we drive around the Bay Area, our license plate is being read, is it not?
It is, and there are actually businesses within the city of Sonoma that have license plate reading technology currently installed privately. There is an opportunity for businesses, if you have a lot of theft and you want that database, that access to have the camera without being able to see the database, you can sponsor a camera. If there's one in your area that you wanted, that's arranged through the company, but they don't have access to databases to use it. So it's only for law enforcement's access, but if they had something happen of criminal nature in their parking lot or their area, then they could notify us of that camera and give us access to it legally.
So the way it is now, if somebody commits a crime in Santa Rosa, but they come to Sonoma, the license plate is read there, but we don't have any reading here. Is that correct? And the same with Napa. In other words, it's kind of an area where they have the technology and we're sitting here without it. Is that correct?
A great example is the home invasion that we talked about a few weeks ago back in the valley. Those suspects were identified and located in the city of Vallejo as a result of their ALPR systems that I had access to here from the office.
Thank you. Okay, any further comments or questions before, there's more items from the audience. We sort of closed public comment, but since, if you'd like to come forward and make comments, I'll extend it, but typically we just do it once. Thank you.
How much will it cost?
All right, would you answer that, please?
Yes, the cost that I'm looking at for the system designed as perfect is $3,000 a camera for $57,000 a year.
Thank you. All right, and another comment. Yes, please. Come to the microphone, please.
How would a business go about sponsoring if they were curious to?
All right, good question, if you wouldn't mind.
My understanding, and this was a pretty brief portion that I went down with Flock, is that you would contact Flock, the representative that we would have work with us, and you could ask them for an installation, and you would deal with them directly on that, and then you would grant us access for law enforcement purposes.
Mr. Bodenheimer, please.
As long as we're breaking the rules, I'll jump in too.
Breaking the rules. That's all right.
I just want to communicate on behalf of the business community. We had a meeting, and I want to thank Chief Cutting for coming and participating in that, and Mayor Lowe as well. I was frankly really blown away by the amount of crime that is happening already, and it's accelerating. The rate of speed that it's accelerating is continuing to grow. It is property crimes. A lot of it is property crimes. It's numbers of under $1,000. And while we can say, well, maybe somebody's in a bad situation, or it's just $800 worth of some goods. Each time these things happen, it endangers staff members at stores, and that was the number one concern that our businesses had. The retail shops that were having these issues, they said, I have a young woman here who is just out of high school, and she's being faced with a decision of what do I do while I see somebody brazenly shoplifting in my store. So I think these tools would really help our business community. I understand the concerns of privacy things, and so I think that's worth learning more about. But I do think this is a growing problem in our community, and I think this would be a really awesome tool for helping with that. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And I was at that meeting. It was several months ago, and it was very well attended, and the amount of concern was very palpable. and it is young people, you know, who don't have any tools and want to do the right thing. So thank you, Mr. Bodenheimer, for reminding us of that meeting. All right, well, seeing no further, one more question, yes.
Actually, it's just a clarification. There was a suggestion by Zoom member that there wasn't very good communication, but in our report, it suggests that there was a invitation to a community gathering upon which it was not well attended. So I'd like to know if we could clarify what the process of community interaction was to date, so that that individual who spoke up with some concern as if this was something new was thrown out there, because that was contrary to what I.
Thank you. That's a good question. Yeah.
Yes, on April 13th, I published through Facebook a lengthy description of what the plan and thought was for the police department. I then held on the 19th, at April 19th, from 5 to 6 at the Emergency Operations Center here at the police station, a English and Spanish translated presentation, much the same as what I gave tonight. It was not attended. There was the vice mayor was present, and the then city manager was present. I did not have any other attendees. It was also broadcast not just through the police department's Facebook page, but also through the city's Facebook page and posted on their calendar as well.
Yeah, sometimes we do our best and people just don't come. We can't help that. Yes.
And so what do you think of the idea of doing, so I come from a background of really deep due diligence, so this is from that point of view, of doing some third-party vetting and, I mean, exploring what the cost of that might be, if there was any, just as another way to help assure public about the privacy issues that the concerns that they may have.
So I'm open to anything. I am not aware of that process. I have never seen or experienced that process, so I'd be out of place to say if that would be a successful venture or not.
Mm-hmm.
This system is fairly well documented, has been utilized by many cities in the county of Sonoma. So I do believe it is a very solid system security-wise. And if the city would like to venture down that road, I can find out. I do not know how that process works.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
And I think we have time during the budget process to perhaps come back and have that conversation. And perhaps, you know, you can share some ideas and so forth. Great.
I can
All
reach
right.
out to, I think Mr. Albach was the one that
Yeah.
presented that. I'll reach out to him via email and see
That'd
if I
be
can
wonderful.
coordinate
Thank you
that.
so much for that. Thank you. Thank you again. And again, just thank you. The letter that we received commending you from the school district was overwhelmingly positive, and thank you for participating in our Pride event last week as well.
Very nice event. Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
And thank you for a very clear presentation.
Thank you.
Very much appreciated.
Appreciate it. Sorry for taking so much time.
No, it was well worth it. Thank you so much. Right, moving right along. We are on part 6 of 6 reports to receive and discuss annual report from the City of Sonoma Community Services Provider. Tonight we have the Sonoma Home Winemakers, Field of Dreams, Sonoma Overnight Support, and the Sonoma Valley Chamber of Commerce. And I see Ms. Jansen there ready to introduce this item. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Lowe and City Council members. I think the mayor did a great job summing up the agenda item, so I'd like to just dive into the first presentation here. So this is a series of 6 meetings. I think this will be the last of the presentations tonight, so I just want to thank everyone for all the time that you've provided to us to do these presentations. So tonight we'll be hearing from Sonoma Home Winemakers. They have a representative, Doug Giesland, here tonight. The city holds a land lease for the Tex Juan Park. I didn't even, it was interesting. It was one of those things that you uncover and you're like, wow, we have a vineyard. So the Sonoma Home Winemakers actually manages that vineyard. And recently, within the last year, we have entered into a First Amendment to that land lease, and that was to grant some water rights. So both of those agreements are in your packet. And at this point, I'd like to welcome Doug up. No PowerPoint. No, Rebecca, no PowerPoint.
No PowerPoint. You can't make wine with a PowerPoint. Everyone knows that. All right.
This will be quick. and thank you for here to speak on behalf of the Sonoma Home Winemakers. We're formerly known as the Valley of the Moon Dilettante Enological Society, VOMDES. She told you my name is Doug Gaisland. I'm a member of the Sonoma Home Winemakers, and our contract with the city pertains to the Tex June, not Ewan, Tex June Park and Vineyard on Leveroni Road. We'd like to share a little history of the park and the vineyard. The Tex June Park and Vineyard was established in 1996. The city had acquired the property when Kaufman and Broad developed the adjacent homes. The then mayor of Sonoma, Al Mazza, approached our president, Tex June, to inquire if VOMDES would be interested in adopting the vineyard, in quotes. At the time, the vineyard consisted of approximately 40 greatly neglected vines, mostly along the edge of the bike path, and the remnants of an abandoned irrigation system. Tex was a retired masonry contractor and had first-hand friendships with most, if not all, of the local businessmen. He was also an optimist, and he convinced the membership that we should accept the city's offer. The challenge was huge. We needed vineyard expertise. We needed vineyard equipment. We needed vineyards and supplies, and much more. With Tex in the forefront, we obtained vineyard expertise from the San Giacomo family, as well as all of the materials needed to make the irrigation system operational. And that was a truckload of materials. We received 400 vines each from the Leveroni and the Cundy family. Leveroni's 400 Chardonnay and Cundy's 400 Merlot, all green growing. At the time, I think they were about $5 a vine. We also received water from the city. Originally, the water was provided via a tank truck, brought to the vineyard each Friday. Later, the vineyard was connected to the city's water system. We worked every Saturday for over a year to develop what is now known as the Tex June Park and Vineyard. We've installed a bench along the bike path, and the local Sister Cities organization installed a picnic table. We regularly see members of the public utilizing these facilities. Today, Sonoma Home Winemakers, all local community members, maintain the Tex June Park and Vineyard. Over the years, many vines have died, and the irrigation trellis systems has deteriorated. We have embarked on an initiative to restore the vineyard. As with any public park, population served is the public. You'll see I'm trying to fulfill what the outline was for my presentation. The city supplies the park with water, and we recently negotiated an agreement to use no more than 1,000 gallons of water a week. We could use more, but in recognition of the drought, we will restore the vineyard incrementally. As noted above, we obtained donations from the Sonoma Valley viticulture community. Most recent donation was new irrigation tubing from the St. Francis Winery and Vineyard. New tubing was needed to minimize the water usage during vineyard renovation. Our annual expenditures average about $1,000 a year. We cover these expenses. Over the years, our partnership with community organizations have included fundraisers with Sonoma Valley High School Boosters, the Sonoma Plaza Kiwanis, and Sonoma Valley Mentoring Alliance. We currently seek opportunities to partner with other nonprofit organizations to provide support throughout the community. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. I know exactly where that vineyard is. I drive by it. I live on the west side there, and I'm glad to see it being put to good use and restored. Any questions from the council on this? No? How's the wine?
It's good. Ask the, who was the, you used 4 cases for what organization? Pardon me?
The Alcalde reception. Oh, yes, of
Yes.
course. Yes, it was. Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
That's a little unwritten well, no, I guess it's now been formally written that we will provide wine to help to be used at city functions.
That would be wonderful. That's
Now, you have
that's
to be
great.
careful. We, as home winemakers, can give you wine to use. But if you use it, you must consume it at the point of use. You cannot take it home.
Correct. Okay. Will do.
I will remember that.
All right.
Not
I
a
will
problem.
remember, because I could be guilty of violating that. That's all.
Which was not an admission of guilt at all on the part of the city council member to my left at all. Well, thank you for
Okay, thank
doing
you.
that. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And if any questions, let's wait till they're all done, and then at the end, if the public has any questions, we'll entertain them at that time. Thank you.
So this evening, we've had a little change of plans, but we have a different representative, Joel Green. Joel couldn't make it tonight from Field of Dreams, so we have M.T. Robertson joining us this evening. The city of Sonoma leases the ball fields, which are adjacent to this building, and as well as we have a maintenance and operations agreement that is usually negotiated annually, and that agreement falls under your community partners funding. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce MT.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Nice to meet you. MT Robertson. I was called in last minute this morning to do this, so bear with me. And I just joined the Field of Dreams board, so it's exciting at times. I have 2 little girls who participate on the fields, and excited to give this presentation. So thank you very much. So Sonoma Field of Dreams, if everybody's not familiar, is leased to the city or to our cooperative by the city for $1. I believe it was a 50-year lease. I'm not sure on the expiration, but it was established in around 1995 through a large community effort. The total cost to build the fields, which I was shocked at, was about $130,000 and involved about 1,000 community members. Those are the estimates from an article I read in the Sonoma Index Tribune, which is a really exciting thing when you think about a community coming together and building these beautiful fields that we have for our youth. Let me go to the next slide. So a little bit about the history of the Field of Dreams board. The original board members, many of them were participants in the building of the fields and the complex. And they had this vision to build it. Dottie Lynch and Gary Nelson came together and really were the foundation of that. And a few of the board members who have just left the board, Marty and Russ, were very active in keeping the fields up to keep and running the fields at a break-even budget for greater than 20 years, which is a fantastic thing when you think about all the costs that we're faced with inflation and the challenges that we all face in running community sporting events. There have been new board members come on to the Field of Dreams board, about 6 new members in the last 18 to 24 months around there. All of them are parents with children who participate in youth sports. And there's a big focus on keeping the Field of Dreams legacy in place, and also a vision to upgrade the facilities, which are in desperate need of that. And the board, having come onto it, I was very excited to see the steps that they have taken to looking into the opportunities that are in front of us to improve the facilities. So again, it was founded by local presence to provide a place for kids to participate in sports. And the current facilities, these are the different groups that we service. You can see there's around 10 groups that we service, equaling around 2,000 athletes. And they range in ages from 4 years old to 70 plus, because we play men's softball out there. I'm on the men's softball league team. So we're very actually happy to be back, because we were out at the developmental center and it was the worst field of all time. And we really work hard at the Field of Dreams to make this an economically feasible experience for all of these user groups that we have come and play, to keep the costs of youth sports and sports in general for the community down. What the city helps us fund and keep with the upkeep of the facilities, they allot about $15,000 annually to the Field of Dreams for general maintenance costs of the property, but also participate in other projects for deferred maintenance costs, such as a grant to help us with the tree cutting that was necessary to keep people safe. Limbs were falling and it's very dangerous to have that, and so we really appreciate that contribution to the Field of Dreams. We also receive rental fees, as I mentioned, and we try and keep these fees extremely reasonable and low for our user groups, because many of them, all of them, are nonprofits. So what's next for the Field of Dreams? There is actually a plan that has been developed by that was commissioned by the Field of Dreams board, but there's just some basic things that we're focused on and look forward to expanding on. The equity and diversity of the opportunities of the facilities. So right now it's really just soccer, softball, and baseball, but there are so many more sports that have come about. Women's lacrosse, men's lacrosse, things like volleyball, pickleball, all sorts of different activities that can take place on this facility. And with the increase in technology for sports facilities, not at $130,000, but there's a lot of opportunity to expand the footprint of the property. We also see an opportunity to reduce the environmental impact that the fields are currently having. The sprinkler systems are over 30 years old. We are trying to figure out how to improve that, but we are wasting a tremendous amount of water with an outdated sprinkler system. We think that upgrading those, especially in drought years, I noticed that the drought things are on the docket to be removed, but that's today. What's 5 years from now? We live in California, and we all know how quickly it can change. So a lot of opportunity for us to reduce our environmental impact by also upgrading the parking facilities to be EV parking spaces, and encouraging people the opportunity to have electronic bike parking spaces and different things like that in the plan. Improve accessibility. There's very few opportunities for people with disabilities to go out to the facility and enjoy the property. There's not a lot of places for parents and grandparents to sit and watch the games that are comfortable in nature. And we're in support of, as I mentioned, zero emissions. I think there's a really big opportunity for us to help participate in that in the facility. So what's next for us? The board's new. We're excited to be able to partner with the city of Sonoma and all you folks here. We don't have any expertise on the Field of Dreams board. We're a completely volunteer organization of parents. We think that with some help with grant writing, we can make things happen as they were able to accomplish with Maxwell Village. And we're starting to explore potentially private partnerships that could also benefit the expansion and upgrade of the facilities. So with that, thank you for your time, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Those are exciting plans I'm looking at there. Really great. Even for dogs.
Yeah.
See that.
Oh yeah, there's an upgraded dog park too. So.
Nice. Okay, thank you. Well, any questions before we move on to the next one? We can come back at the end. All right. Okay, Lisa, who's up?
So tonight we'll be hearing from Kathy King. She'll be calling in on Zoom. She's the executive director of Sonoma Overnight Support, and they manage the day services out of the building across the parking lot known as the Haven. The city entered into this agreement to manage the city's emergency shelter, so that's the use of the building. Back in 2005, and I think it was actually activated in 2007. The city also has entered into numerous MOUs over the last few years regarding safe parking program, and I'm sad to say that recently ended as of June 1st. So I think Friday night was the last night of that program, and they're transitioning into some really exciting areas. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Kathy King. Is she ready?
I am.
Go right ahead, Kathy.
Can you?
Yes.
Okay, can you see me, or is it?
Absolutely. See you. I see the
Okay.
slide deck.
And
You're
you see
ready
the
to
slide.
go.
Good. Well, thank you very much. Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members and our new city manager. Thank you for introducing me. I've been the Executive Director of SOS for the past 15 years, and I want to thank you for this opportunity to update you on what SOS has been doing. We're celebrating our 20th year in existence. Homelessness is not what it was when our founders, Elizabeth Kemp, Adele Harrison, and Cy Lentz, got together and decided that they would start feeding people, farm workers actually, out by St. Leo's in a field. They saw the need not only for the hungry, but to provide services and shelter. So in 2007, the Haven was built. It has 2 bedrooms, and it also has, it had a room for the manager and offices. Since then, SOS has been evolving and changing to meet the overwhelming problems of the food deprived and the homeless here in Sonoma and the Valley. We certainly couldn't have anticipated what the COVID pandemic, how it magnified the problems here and throughout the country. So this PowerPoint is just to give you a slice of 1 year of what we've been doing so that you get a feel for it. And the first slide, please. We serve 1,000 people. 511 came in directly, and the rest, food is brought home for them. It's a grab and go at the Springs Hall from 9 a.m. to 11, Monday through Friday. And the people that get fed, they also bring food home to their families. And our intake specialist, Natalia, she did a questionnaire for people and asked them what are the first names of people, because we value people's privacy, and what are their ages. And the shocking thing was 20% were under 18. So a lot of children are being fed. Next slide. The services, no, that's the last slide. Here we go. The services provided, such as case management, we have access to hotel stays. We give people bus tickets to out of Sonoma, but people that are helped, you can see here 43% are Latino. Some people don't declare what they are, and then the rest Caucasians. Next slide. So the unhoused, this is 176 clients. They declare that they're homeless. People, then some people they really don't want to say they're homeless, and that's the 16% that say they aren't. And the rest that come in are what we think are precariously housed or living in households with lots and lots of people. Next slide, please. Then there's people that were living in their car. They declare they live somewhere in the Sonoma or in the Valley that actually do live in their car. We did have a good outcome on Monday. We got 2 people into Los Gilocos Village, and we have 10 people there now from Sonoma. We had a promise of 15 huts, but because of the encampment sweeps, They are leaving 5 of the huts open for the whole county for medical emergencies. Next slide. This is just what's happened on every single day. That you can see the breakfasts that are served. I mean, the staff does an unbelievable job of feeding people. That's from 9 to 11. People come in for, the coffee pot for 100 cups gets used right away. And this is the breakfast. Then the lunches, next one. And you see more people come in at lunchtime between 11 and 1. And last week, for the first time ever, we ran out of food. There was a day that we served 341 meals. We did have some gift cards from Taco Bell and McDonald's, but because we were preparing for the next day, and it takes at least 6 to 8 volunteers every day with 4 staff to cook all these meals. It was the first time that happened. This is a trend that we talked about with the Catalyst Fund food providers, and it's happening all over the county. That there's a sharp increase, 19%. The Redwood Empire Food Bank says there's a 19% increase of need for food. Next one. And then this is delivered meals. This is in Sonoma, in the city of Sonoma, and in the valley. Sure Shalom congregation helps us twice a week to deliver. And there's a lot of grateful people that really would not get meals. They don't qualify sometimes for other meal services, and we don't ask any questions. We just sign people up and deliver the meals. Next one. This total last year was 61,000, which we thought was just, the highest. We couldn't believe it. It was double from what we were serving in 2019. There was only 30,000. We think now with the estimates, because we do track it every single day, that we will exceed 65,000 meals. Next slide, please. Now the showers are given at the Haven with a monitor, and you can see that some days people don't come in and sometimes they do. Average 7 to 8 a day. They could get a change of clothes because sometimes they're washing the clothes that they're in. They get clean underwear, they get a hygiene kit. They also have access there to a P.O. box, so if people are working, they can have their checks mailed there, the Social Security, and we hand out the mail every day. And then the laundry services, there's only one washer and it can do only 2 to 3 loads a day. Sometimes people put so much stuff in there, it has a couple done every day. But again, it's being used for that. The Haven also has 5 staff people working out of it, storage, and we do hand out their gas cards. We're working with Fish, coordinating that effort. We're also handing out once a month to each client a $20 gift card from Bon Marché. And then they have access to our client fund if they have emergencies. They need to buy something, then they make a request, and then we give the money to them, say they need to have money to get a driver's license or something happens to their car, we will help them. Next one, and this is where the case manager comes in. Case manager sees people at the Grange, but also private meetings at the Haven, and has helped people in person with phone appointments, and he moves them on to different services or hooks them up with different services. We work very closely with the health center to make sure that people get their needed health care. Next one. Now this is what's really phenomenal, is that we get in kind, which means people give food and items, but 250,000 of the in-kind donations are food, and that comes from the Mormon Church. Every other week, we can pick up in Napa from their Bishop's Pantry. We have Meals on Wheels that donate, Fish, Whole Foods, Lucky's. Williams-Sonoma. Then we have local farmers, Haystack Farms, Farm to Pantry, and individuals. So really $250,000 we could not pay for the food if we didn't have those kind of community contacts. It's overwhelming. Speaking of that, the staff and I have been participating by attending the by names list that was actually today, initiated by Andrew Enning and coordinated by Francisco Kilgore. We also are part of the Mental Health Collective, and then we're part of Catalyst Fund, Food Insecurity Roundtable, and a countywide providers meeting. Safe parking program was closed, and it was a very hard decision for our board, but the use of our resources, $10,000 a month for security from 3 p.m. to midnight was excessive, and some days there were only 3 cars parked there. So we're going to focus our energy on this is the exciting part, on a new building with a commercial kitchen, walk-in refrigerator, freezer, 1,000 more feet, and the permits are going to be walked in by our architect on this Friday. And so we think we're right on target to finish up, hopefully, fingers crossed, get the permits and start to move in as soon as possible. We continue to pay rent at the Grange and for our new site, and then we think that this will help the Grange in the long run because they want to do more rent for the Springs Hall, and they also, we've been their only tenant there for the last 3 years. And we're going to expand, hopefully, expand our hours and expand our outreach once we move, just down the block. I'm grateful for the 10 caring and compassionate staff and the volunteers who give so generously of their times. We really couldn't do this without the support of the local churches. St. Andrews is one in particular, businesses, private foundations, civic groups, individuals. Our budget now is $1.1 million. We get $30,000 a year from the city unrestricted with no county funding. I'm hoping that the city of Sonoma will allocate more funds so that SOS can continue to serve the most vulnerable in our community. Thank you for this opportunity, and I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much. Any quick questions for Kathy? We can always come back at the end after everyone's done their presentations. We're almost done. Thank you so much. This was a great presentation, and obviously we're indebted to you and all of your staff for all of the hard work you're doing. So next, I believe there's one more. Is that correct? Yes. Lisa? Okay.
And the last one tonight will be Mark Bodenhammer, who is the CEO of our Sonoma Valley Chamber of Commerce, and the city holds a professional services agreement with him for his help with all the economic development. So with that, hi, Mark.
Thank you. Good evening again, Mayor Lowe and members of council. I just want to clarify there is no agreement with me. There is an agreement with the Chamber of Commerce, and we're very proud to do the work that we do. It's really an honor to represent this community and the businesses that exist here. So quickly going through, there's our overview. I'll try to whip through this and then just let me know if you have questions. We've been serving the Valley since 1909, so 114 years of keeping our business community educated, intact, and moving forward and prosperous. Our mission, we provide essential resources for businesses and cultivate partnerships that develop, sustain, and strengthen a healthy and resilient local economy. Most of our programming and services are free for members of the community. We do that intentionally because so many people, when they're starting a small business, just don't have the extra resources to get involved and do the extra education and things like that. We really strive to make sure that the information we're providing to our membership is going to be available to the whole community. We'll talk more about that in a minute. I do want to just especially shout out KFCY and Sonoma TV for their efforts and their partnership. They give us a really great deal on coming out to our events to make sure that when we do have speakers that are informing our members at a breakfast that might cost $50, $60 or something, that information is live streamed and available out to members of the community at no cost, so that we are providing that information to everybody and not just to those who can afford to attend a breakfast. Quick rundown on our budget for the year. We are a very lean and mean organization. Budget totals about $325,000. On the revenue side, you can see the two big chunks are the city contract that we have and our membership. This is last year's numbers. One thing I did want to touch on is just how proud we are of the Chamber. The last 5 years have been incredibly hard for our business community, and we saw that reflected in our membership count. We went from about 415 or so in the rockin' and rollin' pre-fire times. It dropped down to about 350 in 2021 after the first wave of all the COVID lockdowns and all of those things. So it was getting kind of very tight. Everybody on staff took a mandatory staff, a salary cut. But we got through it, and proud to say that over the last 2 years, we've rebuilt and just crossed the 400 membership mark again. So things are looking good for our organization and for the community, and that helps us grow as an organization. On the expense side, it's pretty much all staff. We have about 218,000 of the 325 goes to staffing, because that's really what we do. Is we're a service organization. We provide human help for local businesses here. Other things, as you can see, the office lease, employee benefits, taxes, fees, and events, some economic development funding and things like that. But it really just comes down to having people available to help our local businesses here in the community. Key partnerships, obviously, first and foremost, is the city. We really do enjoy the work we do with you guys. The last few years, we've gotten to know city staff quite well. I was talking with Mike earlier about how much we all got to see each other over the last couple of years throughout the COVID thing, and it was really just an awesome example of everybody in our community working together. I miss seeing all of the staff members, but I'm glad that we don't have some catastrophe that we're dealing with that forces us to do that. We host a lot of community meetings with the business community. We have participate in the project advisory committee. We do surveys, town hall meetings, and work on the farmers market. Other partnerships with local nonprofits, we have really leaned into our role of serving the nonprofit community around us. We oversee the Executive Directors Roundtable, which is a grouping of all the different nonprofits in the valley. Mayor Lowe came and participated in that meeting a couple months ago, and we were excited to have City Manager Guin yesterday. Was that just yesterday? Whatever day. It was the Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month. And we really are trying to do more and more to help our other local nonprofits, because they're a big part of our local economy, and just because they're doing such amazing things in the community. Also, economic development staff, we meet monthly with economic development staff from around the county and learn about what they're doing so that we can do some of the similar things here, and that's been really helpful, especially when we're evaluating things like the parking study or when we were looking at the cannabis dispensary a couple of years ago. That was really helpful to have those partnerships. Chamber advocacy, we work with a group of other chambers from around the North Bay region, Marin, Sonoma, and Napa counties, and work together on advocacy. So we were able to put together a really great legislative platform and went up. Primarily, it's just housing that we're advocating for, but I think it's really important that our elected officials up in Sacramento hear from the business community that we are in favor of building more housing, and as quickly as we can, as many places as we can. And I know they hear it from the cities, and I know they hear it from housing advocacy groups, but I think for them to hear that our touristy business communities want more housing built is really important. So proud to have that unified voice. And finally, KSVY Radio, we have a weekly show, and that's something that we're really excited about. We have, again, involved a lot of the local nonprofit community in that. We have a monthly feature now with Sonoma Valley Community Health Center to get health information out to our community, and that's been really positive. So moving on, what's new for us? The last couple of years, we've been very reactive. We haven't been able to plan and come up with an idea of where we want to go and go achieve it. It's been very reactive, and I've likened us to a Swiss Army knife. Every member, every local business has needed different things, and the community needed different things. So we tried to do as best we could to support everyone. We're kind of back to regular programming. It's really awesome doing in-person events again. Our first one this year was the Meet the Mayor event. And I was blown away by how many people, after the last couple of years, everyone was so tentative to come and do in-person gatherings. But it seems like this late winter and spring, people are ready to go, and it's been really awesome for us to get back to doing mixers and ribbon cuttings and industry gatherings, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But it's just been really positive for an organization that's supposed to be gathering people. The last couple of years were very difficult for us, and so it's great to be back. The new thing for us this year is these industry councils. Those have been really positive. The picture that you see there is Chief Cutting. That was from the retail meeting that we had a couple of months ago. It was really well attended. And we're getting the retail group together quarterly because they have unique challenges. And so getting them together to share about best practices and what's working and things, challenges that they're all facing has been helpful. Just today we had an awesome meeting with our housing, real estate, and construction group. You'd be amazed how much support there is for them, from these professionals that want to do more to address the affordable housing issue. It was the number one thing we talked about besides homeowners insurance, which we'll address later. That's a growing issue that's going to complicate everything we're working on with affordable housing. We're going to put together a health and senior services group, and the restaurant group I wanted to mention as well, because that was a great example of our role in connecting the city and our local businesses. That group turned up information about garbage collection that I didn't know was a problem, but it turned out to be a huge problem. We were really fortunate to have Councilman Ding and Travis Wagner, the city's sustainability coordinator, came out and met with them, took some information back to the garbage collector, and now I just last week got a email from one of the businesses that participated that heard that they had positive changes from the garbage service collection. So it's a great example of how our organization and the city and the business community can all work together to address issues in a way that's actually solving problems before it turns into just a giant, political nightmare or something like that. So other new thing for us, we are unveiling this right now. This is the first public acknowledgement of this, but we are changing our logo. Small thing probably, but was really proud of it. One of the things we realized, our logo, the one on the left here, didn't really say Sonoma in any way. You could swap out the word Sonoma and put any other city name and it would look just as fine. Now we've got some kind of agricultural emblems. We've got the palm tree from the plaza, the moon for the Valley of the Moon, the mountain range in the background is actually local mountain range, and you might notice the shape of it is the horseshoe shape from the plaza. So and then the other big thing for us is including the word valley in our logo, because we do represent this entire valley. So wanted to call that out specifically. So that's new for us. City contract. Again, we're just so appreciative of this. It really allows us to support small businesses without charging them, tons of money or just nickel and diming them for small things. Small businesses are on limited budget, and we can provide services for them without charging them extra every time. It allows non-members to participate in our programming. It allows us to serve the nonprofit community. We can accommodate payment plans and reduce fees for members facing hardships. We've had members that lost space in fires or that went through a challenge, lost key staff and had to shut down. We can focus on economic development instead of fundraising. A lot of chambers spend their time doing golf tournaments and pancake breakfasts, and it's just fundraiser after fundraiser after fundraiser, and we're entirely focused on helping our business community. Seeing the news the last couple of days and speaking with our new city manager, I know that there is a budget shortfall. We want to be a big part of addressing that and helping the city generate more revenue so that we can solve it on the revenue side rather than having to cut services. And that's the type of thing that we get to do with our time without having to be focused on fundraisers all the time. Again, the no-cost access for information, and then just finally doing things the right way. I'm so proud of our organization, especially over the last couple of years, how we served our business community through COVID and through all the challenges that have come up. And it's that city contract that allows us to do that and not be cold and difficult and ask people for money before we provide them services. We're able just to get out and do those things. Overlook Trail is a great example. We did a ribbon cutting for them. They're not members. I wouldn't want to charge them an annual membership fee just to do something like that. That was really fun for the whole community. So we get to go out and do those things. So we really appreciate that. And we're able to put on our lunch and learn events and just have a direct pass through. We don't make any money on those types of things. We just charge the participants in the exact costs that the business charges us for having somebody there. So with that, thank you very much. I can't tell you how proud we are to represent this community, and we really thank you for not only this contract, but for those of you and everybody on staff, really, your participation in our events and our programs, our ribbon cutting, showing up. It means a lot to us, and more importantly, it means so much for the businesses when they do an event like that, and you guys show up when they get to take a picture with their city councilman. It's a huge deal. So thank you guys, and welcome any questions.
Great. Thanks, Mark. Always fun to work with you guys. All right, so we've heard couple of presentations. Let me turn it back to the council to see if there's any questions, and then we'll take any comments from the public on these. Any comments or questions? Okay, any questions from the public or on Zoom?
Yes, we have Fred Alabak.
Please.
For Kathy and for Mark, for Kathy King, I was curious how many homeless are from Sonoma or the county? And my second question is, what's going to happen to the people from the overnight parking? Where will they go? And three, I was just curious, you know, if SOS had a plan to deal with the missing money from the 3-year homeless plan, or who was going to pull up the slack for that. And then for Mark, I wanted to confirm that I heard that the public can attend the State of the City for free. And also, I'd like to say to Mark that the Sonoma Valley Housing Group is very happy to stand with the Chamber in the Sonoma Valley Collaborative, and commend Mark for changing the logo to the Valley Chamber. And also, I'd like to ask if the city would consider, as part of the economic development arrangement, to have labor interests represented as well as business interests. It would seem like that would be an appropriate move, and then possibly North Bay Jobs with Justice would be an entity that could represent economic development from a labor standpoint, because the economy is top down and bottom up, and workers make the economy go around. So I think it would be appropriate to somehow have workers be representative in city economic policy. Thank you very much.
All right. Is Kathy available? If she could answer the question regarding, do we ask if they're from the city, or, you know, a lot of people don't know, by the way. I ask people all the time, where do you live? They say the city of Sonoma, and I ask, whereabouts? And they say Agua Caliente Road, and I'm like, okay, not in the city. But, so a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
So Kathy,
I'm available.
Oh, wonderful. Kathy, I don't know if you heard Mr. Alabak's questions.
I heard there was a series of three.
Yeah.
We don't ask people where they live, but they some say, I'm from Sonoma, I grew up here. You know, we have anecdotal, we think about 80%, when we did keep track of it, it's about 80% are from the city of Sonoma, but again, the lines are blurred because people are living in, you know, in Boys Hot Springs or Fetters or someplace like that. Then the next question is, the sad thing is that we did notify people 2 weeks ago and try to help some people, but unfortunately, there are no places for anyone to go that are living in their cars. They're still coming and using the services during the day. They're still coming and taking the showers, because some of them are part-time. We did get a car client up to LG, like I said, and another person. But at this point, we don't have any places for them to go.
Thank you.
And there was a third question. The third one was what, Fred?
I don't know. I mean, we can only do one at
Yeah.
a time here. I think those were the
Okay,
questions
I'll
for
just
you.
do-
He had some other questions for the chamber as well.
Okay.
And if we think of them,
Okay,
if
that's fine.
anybody can we'll come back to you. Thank you for hanging in there with us. Appreciate it. And Mark, if you wouldn't mind discussing whether or not you could expand your membership in some way.
Always happy to help Fred with his questions. Hi, Fred. So a couple things. The State of the Valley is not free. We are trying to find a different format. We did it the last time we did it in person. It was an in-person a dinner event that I think was fairly costly, and I think that that's an event that we would like to get the cost significantly down on. But we do pay out of our revenue from that event to bring KSVY in to actually broadcast it live, and they capture it on video, so that all of the information that's presented is accessible to people in live time, and then also it's captured so that people can see it afterwards. Because I think it would be inappropriate inappropriate for us to have that information presented and not make it free for members of this community to get access to. We don't actually have, fair question about labor being represented separately, but I actually don't see it as a separate part. We have a member of our board of directors with a construction firm that's a labor union organization, and we represent everybody equally without any regard to whether they're union or non-union. Would love to explore ways that we can serve the employee community separately from business owners, and that's an interesting idea. And Fred, I'd welcome a chat on that. I think those were the only questions. Anybody remember anything else?
I mean, so you're open to it. It's, they could call you up, for example.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
great. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. All right. Thanks again. We're totally enriched by all of the efforts that we heard this evening, and I want to thank everybody and thank Lisa Jansen, who helped coordinate this program. I see one come on down. We're at we sort of finished, but we're not finished yet, I guess. Come on. All right, this is the last question, then we're going to last questions, we'll move on. Comments.
I'd like to make some comments
Please.
about SOS. My name is Lynn Joyner. I live on West MacArthur Street for 12 years. I'm a refugee from San Francisco because I wanted warm weather. I wasn't expecting all the fires that we've had, and I could have done without them, as all of us could. But for the last, 4 or 5 years, I've been working on Thursday mornings at SOS Kitchen. And I can slice and dice and peel and do whatever needs to be done, except onions are not my friend, and I will not peel any onions or cut them. And Dan knows that. But it's an incredible group of people who are volunteering to do this kind of work. And the staff, the paid staff, are superb, and I don't know if they get enough credit for not always knowing what food is going to be coming in from the farms or from the supermarkets or what we can get from the food banks. The food banks are under great stress right now because there is not enough for anyone. And I just want to ask all of you on the council, have you noticed the prices at your supermarket and your markets? Do they seem higher to you? Well, imagine what it's like to try and feed thousands of people every week 2 warm, nutritious meals 5 days a week, plus the ones that Kathy has volunteers taking out to people who can't get out of their homes. I thought I'd give you an idea of today's menu and a few of the other things that we have to deal with that you probably don't consider as part of feeding people. Okay, today's menu included scrambled eggs, sausages, toast, and fresh fruit, and the lunch included roasted chicken and fresh pasta salad and a lot of fruit and so forth. But every day, SOS goes through 30 pounds of potatoes that have to be peeled and cut and sliced, 180 eggs, that's 15 dozen, 40 pounds of meat, and about 50 pounds of fresh fruit every day. We have to find it somehow. And then there's the cost of providing the takeout food boxes. Have you ever thought about that? Napkins, towels, and the cups for costly but necessary coffee. The cost of the food boxes has jumped nearly 50% in just 2 years. It's something you don't think about. You're giving us $30,000. We go through that like that. Dan Kahn is our magician of a chef, and he is now buying 12-ounce cups instead of 18-ounce cups for the coffee and so forth.
Ms. Joyner,
to save money.
just be aware of the time. If you could wrap up, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
It's like on TV when my floor manager used to go like this.
Yeah, we try to be fair to everyone, but it's 3 minutes. Thank you.
All I want to say is what would happen if we didn't have SOS? And I hope that you can find some more money in your budget to help us do that. Yes, we need more housing for the homeless, and not only the homeless, all of us, but we also need food. If you don't have food, There's not much else you can do. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all you do. Volunteer. Oh, there's someone I know very well.
Hi.
Nice to see
Thank
you.
you. I know it's so great to see you all from this side.
Ms. Agramonte, for those who don't know,
Right.
former city council member
Yeah,
and
thank
mayor.
you. Thank you. Well, I wanted to give Kathy some praise. I had 7 things I wanted to mention. She covered them all. Well, one thing I wanted to let everyone know, when I make that call for passes for people to take buses from Boy Springs up to Santa Rosa, all over the county, it's the gentleman from the Sonoma County Transportation, and he is a manager. His name is Brian Albee. He's the most unbureaucratic bureaucrat. He never says no. And so I just wanted everyone to know that. That's the only thing that escaped Kathy. She did mention passes, but I just wanted to give him the credit. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. Any further comments or questions before we move on? Again, thank you all for being here, and thank you for everything you're doing to enrich our community. We would not be the same Sonoma without all of the things that you're doing. We just would not be. Thank you so much. So let's move on. We are at the consent calendar. Items on consent calendar are considered to be routine, will be acted upon by a single motion with no separate discussion unless members of the council or staff request specific items to be removed for separate action. I understand there's a couple of just comments that people want to make on the items. I'm looking over at the city attorney if that would be okay without,
Sure, provided it's not discussion, just a couple.
not discussion, simply comments. Okay. All right. Is there a motion, and then we'll take public comment after the motion? Is there a motion?
I want to, before the motion, I want to just make a comment.
Okay.
For the 7.5, I would like to direct to the point Patricia Nakulinen as the Commissioner of the Parks, Recreation, and the Open Space Commission. You did a lot for the community, and I hope you will continue using your passion and skills to serve the community. Congratulations.
Thank you. Any?
Mayor Lowe, just
Yes.
as a point of order.
Yes, please.
It's best to give the public an opportunity to comment before
Before,
the vote
okay,
is taken.
very good. And public comment on the consent calendar? Please. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I am Jessica Mizuraka. I've met most of you, I believe. I'm a Pros Commission member, and I'm also the chair of the Sonoma Overlook Trail Stewards. I understand that one of the items tonight on the consent calendar is the grant that we're trying to get to help fund our third and final phase of our trail improvement project. And I also understand that you received, Mayor Lowe, a letter from someone who expressed some concerns. I read that letter, and there are some misconceptions there. So I decided to come and make myself available to answer any questions you have about the project and to give you a very short synopsis of what we're doing up there. Whether you've been on the trail or not, I can tell you it's kind of a little mountain of rock. There's a lot of rock in that trail system. It creates kind of a class of and category of trail that's not for everyone, but we do our best. We work very hard. We've got about 25 volunteers in the stewards, and we do our best to keep sure footing, make it convenient for as many people as possible. We get upwards of 55,000 visits a year. It's really a sanctuary for a lot of people, including myself. And the way that we do things is we follow the standards of one of the most renowned trail designers, Don Beers, known to many people. We have one steward who's an engineer who helps design these projects. We have other stewards who have been in this kind of industry for many, many, many years, working in these same standards, the trail science that we use. And one thing that I love about it is that we do our work in such a way that we try to make our changes as permanent as possible, including installing steps. big sandstone steps. So I'm just here to tell you that I'm available to anyone if you have any questions or concerns about that letter or anything else about the project. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Any other comments? Anyone on Zoom?
We're going to be bringing in Fred Alabak.
Okay.
Yes, I would like to also comment on agenda item 7.6 and second all of Jess Mizuraga's comments and strongly support the application of the State Parks Recreational Grant. I think the Overlook Trail is a fantastic deal for the city, and we've done tremendous improvements to that trail over the years, and it'd be well worth your support of this grant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Alabak. Any further comments on Zoom? Okay, let's bring this back to the council. And is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I just had one comment.
Oh, please.
I just had a comment on 7.4, and just to, for people to be aware, I understand that, we certainly have enough water in our reservoirs at the moment, but it could be a temporary issue, and that water is finite. The amount of water in the world is a finite amount of water. It's not like some magical way new water is made. And although we may have a great deal of water here right now, that there's many other places that don't. And so I really do encourage people to continue to be very judicious in their use of water. I personally, I know this may be too much information, but I choose not to shower every day, and because you don't need to shower every day. I make sure I stay clean.
Okay,
But-
it's okay. We got it.
But there's many, many, many ways. I thought that would get people's attention. There's many ways for people to really, be conscious every time you turn the water faucet on, how much water you're using, and to turn the water faucet off when it's just running. It doesn't need to just run, but just to make sure that we're really encouraging people to really save water as much as they can. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I would like to move to approve consent calendar.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by the Vice Mayor. Any further questions on the motion? Clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Wellender,
Yes.
Councilmember Farrar Rivas,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gurney,
Yes.
Councilmember Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Lowe.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. And thank you for taking care of the trail and being willing to come forward and clarify. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. There are no public hearings. We have one item on the regular calendar, and that is discussion, consideration, possible action to adopt a resolution approving the Sonoma garbage collectors 23-24 refuse rates. It is close to 8. I see that this sign, so we're going to take a little bit of a break and come right back. So at 8 o'clock on the dot, we'll be back. Thank you. In recess. 1 minute. this over to the city manager, please.
Great, thank you. I'm going to be presenting item 9.1, which is Sonoma Garbage Collectors 2023-24 refuse rate increase. And this is an annual increase that our current contract allows from our current hauler, which is Sonoma Garbage Collectors. As part of the agreement, this is a summary of what they're allowed to do. So I wanted to go through that real quick before we go through the actual increase that's being requested. It requires them to submit that request in writing to the city for our review and approval. The increase is based off the refuse rate index, which accounts for essentially the inflation of the various elements of what it takes to run the business. Anything between 6% and 10% of an increase requires council approval, review and direction, and before they can go forward with that. The percent increase today is within that range, at just over 9%. And if approved, they are required to send a notice of the rate adjustment to customers with that first billing statement of that increase and what happened. So the rate increase is a 9.76% increase this year. Again, the numbers on the right-hand side of the screen represent the inflationary increase for the refuse rate index. So labor, maintenance, equipment is going up 3.57 based on what that index. Motor fuel has gone up, obviously, in disposal fees, and that's through Republic Services where they dispose of. So the total increase that they're requesting is documented with the 9.76. I provided this chart to just show council the history of the rates over the years since 2013, and the various rate increases per year that I've seen. So the most similar rate increase that ratepayers have seen was in 2019 with a 9.51% increase. Currently, if this goes into effect, the 9.76% increase, customers would see a $22.91 charge for a 32-gallon residential can. And this is the comparison of the rates. So based on the size trash can that is offered, there's various rates that are applied. Typically, the 32-ounce can is used as the metric, which is comparable for other agencies, which you'll see in the next slide. So as you can see on this graph, all the cans and are going up by that percentage, both on the residential and then on the commercial rate increase as well. And compared to rates across the county, the rates are still fairly low that our ratepayers are seeing. So with this increase, with the rate increase that's been in front of you today applied, it'd still be the lowest in the county in terms of garbage rates. And so the recommendation today is, after our review, this has been gone through legal as well, is that the council adopt a resolution which is required for approving the Sonoma Garbage Collectors of a 9.76% increase for the 2023-24 calendar year. That's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions of the city manager on this item? Any questions? Seeing no questions. I have no questions. We'll turn it to any public comment on this.
Yes, we have Tom Conlon.
Please, Mr. Conlon.
Good evening. Thanks again for the opportunity to address the council tonight. I've been watching garbage rates in Sonoma now for about 4 or 5 years, since SB 1383 was passed. And when I was reviewing tonight's package, I took another look at the assumptions behind the RRI, the index. And I'm concerned because I think there may be a material error in the fuel rate increase factor. And I wanted to draw the council's attention and the city manager's attention to that. The price of diesel has actually gone down quite significantly since April of last year, which is the link in the consultant's document demonstrates this quite clearly. The citation that they they use to justify the rate increase, quite dramatic rate increase in fuel price, actually shows that, in fact, the price of diesel has gone down over the past year. And you'll recall that that's probably because the Ukraine war was announced shortly before that. So if that error is, it is the most significant factor in the rate increase proposed this year. And I would also point out that in terms of proportion, this is a higher rate of increase requested than in the year when we added SB 1383 obligations to the city, which required our half-time FTE, or half of the half-time FTE for our sustainability coordinator. So if the consultant could address this, if they're there tonight and can address this, that would be great. If not, I'd recommend you consider postponing this decision if that is possible. I hope you appreciate the input tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Conlon. Any other comments? Okay.
No one else is raising their hand.
Seeing none, if we could please address his concern, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Sure, I'll have a representative step up to the mic.
Good evening. Am I on? Yes, I am. Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Ken Wells. I'm representing Sonoma Garbage Collectors tonight. And to respond directly to the question from Mr. Conlon, the refuse rate index for diesel fuel comes from the series of, and I would, I'm trying to remember the time frame, and I'm pretty sure it stops in January of 2022. So the period of time is January 2022 to January 2023 for the calendar year of 2022. And according to the FRED, the inflation rate for that period was 6.6%. And I happen to have the annual rate increase for this county of Sonoma, which uses the same rate index, and they have the identical same number. So either the county independently did the wrong number and I independently did the wrong number, or we have the right number. I believe we have the right number. I believe what Mr. Conlon is saying is correct. The rates have come down more recently, but for the period of time that we're required to use for our rate index, it was accurate. It would be my response to that. And I'm here to answer any other questions you might have about the service.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Wellender? Please.
The topic of garbage has come up certainly within the plaza, and the frequency upon which it gets picked up. And I believe you told me that, well, let me backtrack. I would love to know if we are going to be able to get an as needed response for our cans within the plaza and our street areas, because again, we are a town that gets visited by many, many people, and it's hard to always predict, but it would be great to have the flexibility of being able to have it picked up when it's needed. And if it's not needed, certainly don't have to empty a 20% filled can, but the imagery and the requisite that I still don't understand why we have a fenced-in garbage area on the plaza as large as we do is not an aesthetic that I think justifies a landmark plaza. So I would love to, at least as we're talking about a new contract, I'd love to kind of hear a little bit more about whether or not there's going to be some flexibility to be responsive on what I call an as-needed basis.
Sure, I'll start off with the item before you tonight is for the existing contract, and the existing contract still has, I believe, 2 years left on it. So what we're talking about today is the rate increase on that contract. But with that said, the conversations are happening with all about making sure that those trash cans are addressed. And do you want to address the frequency?
If I may, thank you, Mayor and council members. Actually, I think there was just some lack of information on the plaza. Referencing the chamber's representative, there was a meeting, and I know that Council Member Ding attended that. There was some lack of information. Our John Corrado, the hauler, has been meeting with the plaza businesses, checking on the frequency that they wanted, and discovering they did want some changes. And we've made them already. The change, and I don't know that we would. And to be answering your question directly about as needed, that's probably. If we work through the idea, that would mean that a staff person would have to think about when to call, when it's going to forecast it. So we find is a much more efficient way is how many times a week? Is it one a week filling it up? If it's not, that's great. If you need more than once a week, we can do that. 3 times a week is available. So anything that we really need to serve the businesses, we have the flexibility within the existing agreement to take care of that, and we have been doing that following that meeting. So I hope that answered your question.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I guess to me it's a wild card, but we know that the plaza. I'm more interested in the plaza than I am the business, and what I'm concerned about is that we welcome tourists. That's how we create money, get money. But on the weekends, I don't like walking. I know we're getting new trash cans, which is great. But I don't particularly like walking by trash cans that are overflowing because it just gives the wrong impression. And so, again, I haven't been doing any quantitative study on a timeline, but I do know that there's a greater, in my opinion, a greater need on the weekend, and whether that means picking up Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday morning, whatever. But again, it gets back down to would love, because you are our only provider, I would love to see our needs met. And it's a wild card, I realize that.
Yeah, well, thank you for the clarification. On the question, I did misunderstand. But on the plaza, I believe we're picking up Mondays and Fridays right now, and we can certainly we increase it as needed if it does flow. If there is a higher flow, certainly summertime is heavier than in the winter. So that's totally doable.
Thank you.
And I'll commit to working with Public Works and the hauler just to make sure that we address that, so we can try to figure out as needed. Yep.
Thank you. Question, Patricia?
Well, and I just wanted to, I mean, although I realize, just to kind of clarify, maybe Tom Conlon has done the math on this. I'm trying to do the quick math, but I'm not coming up with my algebra quickly enough. But so it's 4.43% is motor fuel, but if you were to calculate the difference between what that change is between 123 and where we are at 6.1, we're actually talking about probably just, a few cents difference. Because this is what that, what's making up the, if we calculate, are you following me? If we calculate like the rate he used, and then we look at the difference with gas prices now, it's still up. It's not up as significantly as it was, but it's still, it's going to be less than 6.6%. But that's really, it would only be, it's only going to be, pennies of a difference in my calculation if we were to use the most, even if we had the most current numbers. So I'm just trying to clarify that. Does that make sense to folks?
I don't know if it was clarified, I'll be honest. But I see what I think I know where you're going with that. Thank you.
And I actually did follow it because I live it, but
okay. Thank you.
We live in the same world.
Yeah, well, now and then. But I hope, I think. But in any case, what happens is we do this annually, so the next year will catch up. If the diesel fuels actually come down, you'll get a credit, right? The rates will go down by that percentage. So we have to pick a date. We have to pick a frame of reference for the schedule, and you can always kind of shift it around and get a different answer, but the contract is what we're doing now. And so in this time in a year from now, it will be a much smaller number. It won't be 4.4%. I'm sure it'll be much less than that, but, well, I'm not sure about anything anymore. Let me reframe that. We will use the correct numbers at that time as well. But in any case, thank you for the math.
Yes, please.
Mr. Wells, I was curious. Some industries have high workman's comp claims, arborists, tree trimmers, etc. What is it like in your profession?
In the solid waste collection world, it's similar to, It's not as bad as tree trimmers or loggers, but it's the truck drivers is equivalent. People getting in and out of trucks, bending your, stepping down the leg wrong. Those are the kind of back injuries. Those sort of things. No one in our community lifts cans anymore. They'll drag them, but we don't do the old. In fact, John, the owner, comes from that world, but now everything's hydraulics.
Yeah.
So for the most part, it's stepping down out of the truck. Those kind of injuries are what workers' comp. So we're similar to a truck driver or that kind of industry.
Great, thank you.
I have a question. Just curiosity. And the Sonoma garbage collector is a business entity, is for profit or non-profit?
It's for profit.
It's for profit.
It's family owned.
My question is following: why you can keep the price as the lowest in the Sonoma County compared with other service provider?
Because they're very efficient and not a lot of overhead. I think John's just always been a very frugal business owner. We don't have a huge corporation. It's just the family and the workers. I don't have an answer. We just do the numbers, and that's what it costs to do the service, so that's what we charge. What I can't answer is why are the others so expensive?
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We want to see continue doing like this.
All right, any further questions on this? All right, so we have a recommendation for adoption of the resolution. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the resolution.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are we good? Are there any questions or comments regarding? No? Okay, please call the roll.
Councilmember Wellender,
Yes.
Councilmember Farrar Rivas,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gurney,
You bet.
Councilmember Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Lowe.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
You betcha.
Oh,
We're now Midwesterners overnight.
Oh.
Okay, Section 10 is commission and committee rosters. Thank you, Mr. Ding, for your completing your roster.
Yes.
Looking forward to working with all of the new commissioners. Are there any questions or comments regarding the commissions that we need to address? Okay, seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Oh, that's great.